Welcome back, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a great holiday break. I'm excited to be back. Thank you all for coming back. Um, we're gonna have that kind of conversation today, Justin. Um, uh, let's burn it all down. I'm sorry. You said rising wages? I don't know what you're talking about. I've not heard of such a thing. Um, welcome back. Happy New Year. Um, Let's get started. As always, realized as I was getting started something that I needed to sort out from our last stream. We never merged the code that we did last stream, where we worked on the add task support. Um, is my thing being laggy? I think it's being a little laggy, but I'll let y'all tell me if that's the case. But we worked on the add task support where we actually like store the task and then we see it update on the home screen. That's what we did a couple weeks ago. I never merged that pull request, so I'm actually working on just getting that out of the way now. Um, and then we can move on to what I want to do today, which is I want to work on persisting data with room and maybe, if time allows, SQL um, because I think it would be cool to get this sample app a little closer to something that's like kind of functional, and then it makes it a little more fun to work with. We've been doing a lot that will definitely help us to make it functional. But I think it would be really cool if we could like store and receive like actual tasks from like a database. And then maybe we can venture off into like comparing the two database libraries or something like that. So we just do that. We added support for adding a task and seeing it return on the home screen. I will fill out the YouTube information when this actually gets up on YouTube. One thing that I have to do though is this code from last week doesn't build, and that was because of a what was that? Here we go. It was because a unit test was failing. Um, so I want to get that passing again. And I think that unit test was failing. Oh my gosh, if Android Studio will work for me. Because this fetch all tasks now returns a flow. That was a thing we did last week, or last time, 2 weeks ago. So now we need to actually return like a flow of, come on. I might have to restart Android Studio. It's being a little annoying right now. Um, People have been leaving for ridiculous comp packages over the last 6 months in Michigan. I mean, good for them. I'll take that. We're gonna restart Android Studio real quick. Because I think it's just Android Studio needs a holiday restart. Um, Interest in seeing SQL Delight. Yeah, I've never used it. I know a lot of people like it because it's can be supported on multi-platform. I've also heard some cool benefits that you can run like standard JVM unit tests against it without needing an emulator, like you would with uh words, like you would with Room, where you actually need to fire up a device to be able to do database tests. Um, so that would be a cool thing to look at too. But I think we'll start with Room because as you all have heard me explain in the past, like just because something is Google's recommendation does not necessarily mean that it is the right solution, but it can often be a good starting point. Um, and some people like to start with, what is like the first party supported tooling for these ideas. And so that's what I would go for with like Room is let's start with the sort of Android team's approach to this, but then we can switch over and try out uh, what the community has made for us for sure. So now that we have that, let's run a test locally to make sure this works. Um, Let me look at room. What do I have to talk about today? I don't have much other than, and Nightbot should post this a lot tonight. It's gonna spam this on Friday. I'll be doing a Twitter space for the Android Dev Hangout, and the topic is going to be talking about basically live streaming Android development. So very meta. It will be about this, but it will be me and Seb and Ivan from Code with the Italians. And obviously, there may be other people who come in to speak, but we're basically going to talk about uh, live streaming Android, what that content means, our experiences with it, and stuff like that. So join us on Friday, 12:30 Eastern. I will have to pull up the link because I don't have it in front of me. Um, I really should have done that. Let me get that while our tests are running in the background. There we go. Because if you go to this Twitter link I'm about to post in chat, you can set a reminder. So Twitter will send you a push notification when that space goes live, and you can tune in there. So easy, easy work. Um, aha. So we also need to return a flow here. So what I'm doing here, just to clarify, I've seen a little bit of Florian's streams. I think when we planned this stream or this Twitter space, I don't think he had kickstarted his stream yet, or I would have tried to share it with him. But I'll probably send it to him because if he's able to join and share his perspective, that would be great. Um, so I'll try to send it his way. Um, just to clarify for anyone watching what I'm doing to fix this test. So, a change we made last time was originally our fetch all tasks just returned a like result object but with a list of tasks. We changed that to return a flow because we wanted to be able to observe changes to our task list. This is actually going to be helpful for the work we do today, actually. Um, but so we changed it to a flow. So basically, what that meant is every time our set of tasks, wherever it was stored, would emit like a new thing every time that list of tasks changes. So I have to update some tests where originally we were saying mock, when we're mocking the task list, we have this response. Now I'm saying return a flow of that response. And this is actually like what I'm doing here is kind of like a hack because what if in my test I wanted to emulate multiple emissions, like actually emitting multiple things to that flow, not just one? Well, that would make more sense to have this like consume a flow and return the flow. But instead of updating all of my tests, I'm just going to use this flow of operator here, which basically takes that one entity, turns it into a flow that will emit once, and then all of my tests should still pass. Granted, they compile, which I think they should now. So that's what I'm doing here. Before I get into the fun stuff that we're all looking for, which is persisting data with room. But welcome to Adam's streams, where I'm never prepared, and the first 5 minutes is always cleaning up stuff from last time that I think I'm gonna do off stream, and then I don't. Aha, nice. There's the Nightbot command. So I think I set that up to go like every 15 minutes, because I want everyone to be there. I'm really excited about that conversation. Obviously, because you're here, but streaming is really important to me. I found this to be a incredibly valuable way of sharing information and also learning myself. Um, I would love to either inspire more people who are thinking about sharing their knowledge to stream themselves, or any way to sort of grow my audience and the audience of the other streamers to let them know that an option like this exists. Um, because we have this conversation in here that we don't really see a lot of viewers in the Android dev space, and that's kind of a chicken and an egg problem. Is there there's a lot more web dev streamers than there are Android dev streamers. But even though there are streamers, does that just mean people don't know we exist and don't know how to find us? And that's a whole thing. I'm hoping that having this conversation on Twitter will help all sides of that conversation. So I'm really sad. Cool, that passed. So let's push this up, fixing tests. And I probably should wait Um, need more code injection streamers. Be the change you want to see, Justin. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm happy to see more people start as well. You know, I've always said like I don't like to view it as like a competition. Um, I want to see other people start streaming, and you know that just means more opportunities for people to learn. Um, and there's a number of us out here that are doing this. You know, Code with the Italians, me, Leland Richardson from Google does some streaming. Florian started streaming, and he does this almost every day, which is really impressive. I would like to stream more. I just it's a lot of time when this isn't like a source of income for me. It would be a very other story if like this was something I could profit on. Um, but and you know maybe that is possible if I really wanted to, but we'll see. Um, so I probably should wait for this to build um, because I don't want to merge it if it's wrong, but at the same time, uh, I do want to get started on what I want to do today. So we might just merge this. Um, let's run a clean build one more time locally, and if this passes, we'll merge that pull request and we'll get started. But I guess while it runs, I can talk a little bit about what we're gonna do. Um, Room is a topic that I think is pretty common, um, and uh, it's not unrealistic that many of you who are Android devs in chat have seen this, but it's entirely possible that you have not seen it. So we'll look at it together. We'll talk about its benefits. I'm actually kind of excited because I don't use Room regularly in my job now. Um, and it's been a long time since I touched Room on one of my streams. And so I know that a decent amount has changed. Like, actually, at the beginning of 2020, I remember releasing a YouTube video for Async Android where I talked about database migrations in Room, like what to do when the model backing your database changes, and how to handle users who upgrade your app. And all of that has actually changed because Room supports like auto migrations now. So there might be other changes to Room that I don't know about that I could learn about tonight. So we'll see. Um, we'll see how that goes. But what is Room at a high level for those who haven't seen it? So um, Room is a persistent storage library that uses SQLite, which is a form of database that comes shipped on every Android device. And basically, what you would use SQLite for, or any sort of on device database, is anytime you want to persist information that's going to survive like application sessions and even device restarts and things like that. So we're not just talking about like, oh, how do I survive like process death? Like my app is killed in the background. No, like how do I store information on the device so that it can be read back anytime later? Um, and the old way of doing this, I did this years ago. You used to have to make like content providers. It required like tons of manual SQL and just a lot of work. And then they came out with Room, which was their first party solution to this, which makes database management a lot easier. Um, and there are other tools out there. I keep mentioning one, SQLite, which is from the Cash App team, I believe, uh, which is like a multi-platform SQLite support, which, like I said, we'll look at towards the end if we have time. But that's what we're going to do today. And then what I want to happen. Um, oh no, why did I lose connection? Oh, probably because I restarted Android Studio and so my debugging got disconnected. 1 second. Um, let's do this. Can I share this? I don't know if I'm supposed to share this, but it's fine. Um, I have this command memorized. I really just need to add ADB to my path, but and Okay, so now we should be connected, uh, I think. Why aren't we connected? Let's just toggle wireless debugging. My holiday was good, Dan. How was yours? Okay, there we go. Device is connected again, and now we can see it. So, um, right now, the way our sample app, not really a sample app, but the way our app is working is we have these 10 tasks that come from this like demo repository. And if I'm on the right branch, um, you can add a task and see it added to the top. But if I were to close and restart the app, that task is going to be gone. So what our goal for the end of this stream today is get it to where that will persist constantly, unless I like delete the app or find some other way to delete it. Um, but this is passing, so let's see if it's gonna pass on GitHub. We're still waiting, but we're gonna merge it because I want to get started. I wonder if I ever made a ticket for this. Let's check. Um, I suppose this would probably go under task management. Uh, I'm glad you could relax and appreciate family. That's really good. We can move these to done. Um, let's make let's make a task for this. So, um, can I make it? So, do. Yeah, there's a good background. Megan and the dog. Um, let's go to issues here. Wait, did I? Oh wait, here we go. Don't I have? Okay, I do have implement room database. Oh, I put this on home screen. That's fine. So this will be issue number 13. So let's go to our development branch, pull, and then let's make a new branch, TOA 13, room integration. Okay, so now we have what we need to get started with room. Let's close all our files here and jump into it. So here's the docs. I believe I shared them in chat. I did. Great. Um, wonder if I should walk through it first, or am I going to use Store 4 from Dropbox? I have thought about it. It's not on my plan for tonight, but I have thought about looking at Store. The thing is, like with the app we have now, because we're not like dealing with a database and a remote layer, like I don't know if Store is really necessary, but it would be cool. So I've considered pulling up like a sample app, a different kind of app one night and looking into Store. Um, let's pull this up. I wonder if I should just talk through Room first for those who haven't seen it, or if we should just dive into developing it. Um, another thing I've thought about, a lot of people keep asking about modularization, like if we're gonna try building a multi-module app. And actually, something like this could be um, a benefit because we could have like all of our room data in one module. But I think I'd rather throw everything in here and then we could pull it out into a second module. Um, but let's just talk about this. This will be at a high level everything we have to build. So if you're unfamiliar with databases, or if it's been a while since you've taken a database class, because it has been for me, a database is essentially a collection of tables that are like super powered spreadsheets, right? So there's three parts that we have to build. And let's start at the bottom. So the first thing is our entities, which you can think of as like the tables and like the table rows. So in our case, one of our entities is a task. So we'll need to create a entity class that represents a task, And Room uses annotation processing where we can give it a table name. By default, that's like the class name. And then like all of our column names, which again, Room actually just takes like, if we make a data class in Kotlin, Room will just convert all of that into a table for us, assuming we use like primitive data types, strings, ints, um, booleans, stuff like that. Then a level up, you've got database access objects, which are, oh, we gotta do a Rubik's Cube in a second. I'll do that right after I talk through all these. Database access objects are like the things that get and receive items. So we'll have one for storing and receiving tasks. And maybe as an example, you could have like your task DAO, which is for task management, but you could have like a profile DAO that fetches like the profiles or something else. You would have multiple DAOs sort of by like feature domain, sort of by feature domain. I guess that's up to you. But then you have your Room database, which covers all that. It's basically a collection of database access objects, and where you'll define stuff like migration support, things like that. So those are the three steps we're going to build. Before we get to them, we have to do a Rubik's Cube. So let's get a prediction going real quick. Um, I want to start a prediction, and I want to find this. Okay, we're going to do this one. Uh, oh, error creating prediction. I don't think there was actually an error. It did create it, didn't it? Um, wait, did you do it, Prince? Because I got an error. Um, I think Prince did it because it's using a faster time than I was setting. But I set up a hotkey on my dashboard. Oh, weird. I think yours went through because I was trying to make the over under at 30 seconds, but it looks like we have to go fast today. It's 27.5 again. So that's fine. Y'all can place your bets. I will get the scramble going. Oh, I also have to bring this down. Justin, I think this might be your first time seeing a cube solve on the channel. So thank you for redeeming that. Okay, let's gotta go fast. I'm out of practice. I haven't really yeah, that's a good clarification from Dan. The DAO is what does your inserts, deletes, updates, um, queries. Okay. Um, how's this gonna work? I'm just looking ahead. How long did he make the poll? It should be 2 minutes. Oh, you made it way too long. Can I set it? I can actually, oh my God. Yeah, I believe I can set it. I'm gonna look ahead though and work on my thing here. Okay. Um, I still see bets happening though, so I'm afraid to like click predict. Um, okay, we're gonna close it, I think. Can I close it? Wait, I don't know if I can. Prince might have to close the betting. Or wait, oh, hold on. End submissions. Okay, nice. Okay. Submissions are closed? Okay, submissions look closed. So, and I don't have to choose the outcome yet. All right, are we ready? Oh, wow. Okay. We actually were under 27.5. That's not bad. None of you believed in me tonight. Um, so that's what you all get for not believing in me. Um, Jeez. Y'all, oh my God, the unders are gonna be rich. I go timer and look ahead. That is fair. I did stare at the cross step for a while, but it's it's okay. Anyone can redeem another one at any time. Actually, is there I hope I put a cooldown on those. Um I should probably check that there's a cooldown. Most of mine have a cooldown. I'm gonna check that now before I forget. Okay. Yeah, it has a 10-minute cooldown. Um oh my God. Sorry. Um, I don't mind doing more than one on a stream, but I didn't want someone to like spam it because otherwise I'll never get our coding done. All right, so we went over the three steps. So we're not going to look at implementation because I can talk through that. Um, but there is some stuff. So first thing is getting the room version and adding these dependencies. So let's do that. So the room version right now is 2.4.0. So I'm going to go into our versions.gradle file. Um, we're going to put in room 2.4.0. We'll get the let's get the comment for that in a second. But we're also going to need to go into our apps build.gradle file. And down here in our dependencies, we want to throw in room. But here we'll do root project.ext.versions.room. Do that for both of these. Um, can we use the KSP version of room as a stable now? I don't know. It's not on the setup page here. So um, I don't think so. Let's look at room releases. See if it specifies. Let me put this comment in here before I forget. Um, it is stable. KSP. So with room.2.4, so update rooms dependency on KSP. Okay, nice. Um, do I have to do anything with to support KSP, or does it just um, wait, that room and Kotlin symbol processing. This is from Android developers. This is from October. I'm just gonna skim this to see if it gives me my answer. Oh, they're just talking about challenges. I don't know. Um, I feel like because they mention KSP in the things. So if I change annotation processor to KSP, will that do it? Um, will this work though? Okay, someone else said the same thing. Okay, this built, so that might work. Does Hilt support KSP? Can I change this for Hilt? Does anyone know off the top of their head? Um, I have a hunch the answer to that is no, but okay, no. Um, okay, that's fine. Okay, that's not a big deal. So let's dive into the Android side. So if we're not using, so I'm gonna start at the entity level here. Um, and let's go back to this so we can talk about we can follow there. So to start off, you have um, basically you can create an entity from a data class, and at a bare minimum, you basically need two annotations. One to say, hey, this is an entity, which is the oops at entity annotation, and then you need a primary key. Every entity needs a primary key. Other annotations are effectively optional. So, like this one, for example, this column info is by default the column name will match the property. This is like if I want to change the column name, or I think I can use this to specify like an index or something. Um, and similarly, I with an entity, I can provide things. So the table name defaults to the class name, but I could give this a special table name. There are niched reasons for wanting to do that, but for our app, we're not going to care. Basically, we want an entity, a primary key being like the ID, and then we can store some information about the task. Like, basically, we can store what we have now, like the task description, its scheduled date, um, and go with that. So we just have to think about where that information goes. So trying to decide if I want to put all of my task stuff in like a separate package or if I want to mix it in with like um the other stuff. I think I might put it in its own package for right now, just so that it's all in the same spot as we talk about it. So like we have this core data folder. Um I might regret this later, but for now, let's make like a new package called like local, and we'll put all of our local storage stuff in this package. And then we can think about it later once we have most of it working, how we could um, clean this up, if that makes sense. So um, I don't like, so we already have a data class in our project called task. And that's what shows up in like our task list, right? That's like the core, basically like domain model of a task. Let me pull it up so y'all can see it. Um, this is a task. It has a description. Oh, I actually never put the scheduled date on here, which definitely should be in there. But that's fine. We can go with like description. The task should have an ID as well. Um, one step at a time. But basically, what I was trying to get at is I don't want to give this the same name because then we'll have like some confusion, right? So what I like to do is there's sort of two options that some people go with. They'll either put like task DTO, which stands for data transfer object, which I personally think is more common when I see like networking code. So what I like to do for like my room entities is I'll call it like a persistable task because it's a task that I persist, right? Um, and within this, right, we're going to have our ID, which will be a string, and then our description, which will be a string. Let's annotate this. So we can annotate this with at entity. And this is an example, like, again, if I want to be nitpicky, I don't necessarily want my database table to like be persistable, right? So I could say, table name is just task. Um, right, we could put, I don't know if you can see the highlights from Android Studio here. You could set indices, um, you can set multiple primary keys, um, foreign keys, ignored columns. I didn't know that was a thing. Um, we can talk about those in detail when we need them, but this one will be our primary key. Can I put anything on that? Oh, auto generate. Yeah, this is true. So I think that only works if it's like an int. Um, yeah. Okay, so I can actually make this an integer, and then room will auto generate my ID. Basically, every time it inserts, it'll get like a new ID, starting from one and counting up. Um, you don't have to set this yourself. In fact, I wonder if we shouldn't. Um, because I don't know if I want to be forced to like room creating the IDs. We're not going to do that. We're going to make it a string and we'll create it ourselves later. Um, but then the description, we don't need an annotation for this because we'll just use description as it is. Um, cool. I think that's all we need here. We could talk about this further when we do more like the scheduled date. That's a really interesting thing. You know, how do you store dates? Uh, or also, you know, how do you store like non-primitive types? But let's just get something working and then we can come back to that. So the next thing is a data access object that will provide methods for interacting with that task table. So let's um let's build that. So here we can make task DAO. This is an interface, right? Yes, it's an interface. We give it the DAO annotation. And then any functions in here, we basically will annotate them with like the SQL method that they're operating. So like the easiest one actually is insert. Um, if we insert task, which we need a persistable task for this. Um, we don't need any information. We basically just put at insert, and that's it. It knows which table this is inserted into. Um, I think we could specify like one thing that's cool is you can specify like what to do if there's a conflict. So if you try to insert and say like, um, oh, I'm inserting a task with an ID that already exists, you could do like on conflict strategy dot replace, which is what I like to do. Um, that's a really cool thing. So like, um, if you basically call this like instead of update, it'll basically just replace it. So it's kind of like an update. Um, the one that is a little different here is query. So um, if we were like fetch all tasks, we could have this return. Hi, Khaleesi. Some people call that method upsert. Yeah, because no official upsert actually exists in Room. Um, in some database tools, upsert is not quite like this, but it actually checks like, does this row exist? If it does, update. If it does not, insert. Which is kind of what this is, but I have a feeling there was some nuanced reason that that was not 100% the same. Uh, but also with this one, so Room does support flows. I don't think I need to do anything to change that, so we could have this return a flow list persistable tasks. And what we can do here is we can do query select star from task. Um, I think that's all I need here. Yeah. So that's our DAO. For ours, we'll just fetch all the tasks and insert a task. We're not going to do anything else yet. Um, So then the last thing is setting up a database. So that is an abstract class that extends a room database. Let me type it out. And here, because I might end up storing more than just a task at some point, I'm going to call this TOA database. TOA being the acronym for this app. Um, let's write this out. So this will be an abstract class that extends room database. And there's a couple things we need to do here. So the first, we give it a database entity or database annotation. For entities, we give it like a list of classes that our database entities. In this case, it's just persistable task, and then a database version, which will start at 1. The version is relevant because if I ever make a change to this database and then push out an app update, I'm going to need to update the version. And then I also need to worry about migrations. We're not going to talk about that today. Um, Also, when we're developing, we don't really care about migrations because no one out there is using the app. So as I inevitably change the database version, what I will do is just delete the app and then have it reinstall, and it will make an entirely new database for me. Uh, that's the easiest way to do it. But inside our abstract class, the other thing we need to add are all of our database access objects, which we do via abstract functions. So we just say abstract function task DAO is a task DAO. And then Room will generate all the code we need to actually call these methods. So I think that's it for the initial setup. And then we start using it. So this, I'm going to copy this because we need a way to create the database. So we'll deal with that with our HILT module. So what do I mean by that? So if I go to DI, we have a repository module. Um, yeah, we can look at auto migrations later if we have time. But it's not something I've played with yet. So um, I'm just thinking if I should put this in a new. Let's make a new module here. Um, Object. Let's call it data module. We are using HILT, yes. So let's be a module. We'll install in singleton component. Um, and so here we're going to need a function to provide the TAO database. And what that consumes is our application context. Can you put application context? Is that what it's called? Wait, I actually don't know if that's how you do it. Where did I see this? Um, Let me look this up. I don't remember. Get application context hilt. Uh, there's a way to do it, which I got. Oh, you use a context parameter, and then you give it the at application context annotation. So here we'll do context will be context, and then we annotate this at application context. This will return a TAO database. Why aren't you? Was that not what I called it? Oh, TOA. Why did I write? Oh my God, acronyms are hard. I knew something about what I was saying didn't make sense, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Um, TOA database. I think because it kept mixing up DAO and TOA, are like similar sounds and letters. Um, but okay, so here we can do return. How do we do this? Oops, let's copy from the docs here. So we'll do return room dot database builder, our context, our TOA database class, and then like a database name dot build. Nice. Let's rename this to application context just to specify. Okay, so that's a way of providing the database to a class that needs it. Um, so the next step is to implement something that calls this. And this is where our past naming conventions are going to get a little tricky. Let's commit this code real quick. Adding room integration. So we've had this, I guess, do we want to call it a debate? We've kind of had this debate on streams in the past about naming conventions inside of our data layer. And something that I've always done is I like to call everything like a repository. So we have like a task list repository that does all of these things. Um, and like that makes sense, but what some people have said is a repository is like a more like a collection of multiple data sources. So what I'm saying is I want to build a class here that can fetch information from my database. Would I call it like a room task repository? And other people say like, no, you would call that a service. Um, what am I thinking of? And then it led into this thing that's like, well, would would I make a second interface for like the service? Um, because this also goes, I wonder if I should pull out like the flow chart. Um, the other reason for like a second interface is because what's the word? Uh, right, the repository is supposed to abstract where data comes from, but what? How do I articulate what I'm concerned about? Is I also want to have a way where um, I don't want to be explicitly tied to the room database. And so it's almost like, well, I could benefit from some interface that is like local task list repository. And then whether I use room or SQLite or whatever else local data source, it has to abide by that contract. But the problem is, in practice, wouldn't that contract just be the same as this one? So why do I need another repository here? Maybe I don't. Um, maybe I'm overthinking it. So let's. I'm trying to wonder if I should. Um, so let's not overcomplicate it. Let's put this here for right now. I'm going to call this room task list repository, and this will extend task list repository. And one thing, so we'll do at inject constructor. Um, private val database will be TOA database. What do you mean by dependency inversion? Let's check. Um, so here, for fetch all tasks, we would basically do return database.taskdao.fetch all tasks. And actually, because this is a result, we could do a map, and then we could say result.success task list. Because every time the database finds something, we know it's successful. Um, Why are you? Can I do that? Oh, but is this gonna yell at me for being suspending? You would inject the task DA. I've seen that as an option. Um, oh, the dog is barking. Wonder what he's upset about. Um, hold on. I've got a lot going on here. What did I do? How did I do it with this? Oh, I know. Hold on. Um, this doesn't need to be suspending because it returns a flow. So that function call doesn't need to be suspending. So that works. And then why is this map? So I want to, this is annoying. Um, the Revio brings up a good point. Like the DAO is an interface, so you could just remove the annotations. I don't disagree with that, but the fact that there are annotations in there means it's tightly coupled to room. And so it may be overkill, but sometimes I would make another layer that is like a local service interface. Um, but if I don't have a need for it right now, and I don't think it's going to bite me too much, but that's what I want to do towards the second half of the stream after I get Room working, is I want to try implementing it with SQLite, and then part of that can be like once I actually have two database implementations, then I can go and figure out like, okay, how do I um, have them both work together, and that could be a whole thing. Um, does anyone know Kotlin fun fact? Because I always forget this. So I don't know if you can read this. This is expecting a flow of result, right? But then it's saying it found. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, I know why part of this is because my types don't match. I should have known this. Um, one is returning a list of persistable tasks, one is returning a list of regular tasks. So I need a way to map them together. I usually do that with like a private extension function. Inside here, I'll do persistable task.to task. And then so here I can just do return task. Description will be this dot description. Um, so here we can be like tasks. I could even call like domain tasks will be task list.map, task.to task. And actually let's convert to reference because I like that syntax. Different tasks. Okay, now the compiler's happy. So um, let's reformat this. Okay, so we get our database, we get our DAO, we fetch all the tasks, and then we map each thing. We get a task list. We convert it to our domain tasks, and then we return result.success. Gotta hydrate. Cheers. There was a point in here. I forgot who said it. Maybe Raphael. We could just inject the DAO. Let's do that. Um, uh, so we could just do task DAO there. Now we will have to, in order to make this work, we're going to have to change our HILT module just a little bit. Why? Because right now, HILT only knows how to provide a database. We need to also tell it how to provide that DAO. So what we could do is we could do provides, um, provide task DAO. This will consume the database, um, which it already knows how to do, and then return task DAO. So here we can do return database that task DAO. So now that Hilt knows how to provide this interface, this task list repository will work. And then for add task, we can basically do task DAO dot insert task. We also need a way to go from a task to a persistable task. So let's write that extension function out as well. Persistable task. And then what I'll do in this one, um, so actually for ID, let's just do random UUID. I think random UUID.toString is what I want. Um, and then description will be this description. We should control the task ID better, um, one step at a time. Like I said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Um, but here we can assume this insert works. Uh, if it doesn't, I should get an exception further up the funnel. At least I would hope so. Um, no, I got rid of the auto increment. I showed that it was something you could do, but I got rid of that. Um, just because I wanted to like have control over that ID. If like I ever made like a backend for this application or something. But here we can assume it works, so we can just do result.success unit. Um, or we could wrap this into sort of try catch in case there was an issue, but I don't think that would happen. Um, okay, so those are the basics. Um, okay, so what more do I need to test this? Well, I suppose if we want to test this as it is, all we need to do is change our core DI to return this instead of the demo version. So we can go into our repository module, um, and here it's returning a demo login repository, or no, not login repository, task list repository. We can put here room task list repository. And I think that will work. Let's try it out. And if so, that's oh, an hour. That wasn't a super quick implementation of room, but it was a decently quick one. Lots of conversations in the beginning. Also our cube solve. So let's see how this goes. So one thing, aha, we got a failure. To use coroutine features, you must add does anyone know what classes you would have to take to be a PC build for a company? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe someone in chat would know. Um, oh no, not a stupid question, Tris. What does the suspense on the method do? So let me pull it up. Like in this one, so suspending function in Kotlin is like an asynchronous function. So basically, what it means is it can run code, um, sort of. I'm oversimplifying this. Just warning everyone else in chat. I'm oversimplifying this. Think of it as code that can run in the background. And by putting the suspend function here, I'm enforcing that you have to run it in the background, that you have to start like a coroutine or like a separate thread in order to run this code. And the reason for that is because anytime I add a task, because that is a data operation, I don't want that to run on the main thread. Because if it takes a really long time to add a task, then that will make my app laggy. So the suspending keyword is a way to say, like, this needs to run in the background. And that's a very oversimplified explanation, but that's what it does. Um, which is related to the error message that I just got on the screen. So this is a compile error. Um, I think I would put it as more like a thread. Um, but it's important to know like suspend by itself doesn't mean it's running at a new thread. It means you like that you have to. Let me show you an example. So if I were to go to task list view model, just opening up a piece of code real quick um, to show you. So is that, hold on. Sorry, let me find a piece of code for you. Yeah, definitely not a stupid question at all. Okay, so ignore all this code down here. I have this piece of code in our app that says, here's the task to create when the submit button is clicked. Have a good night, RMixer. Um, and I'm going to call my add task use case that invoke with the task to create. And you'll notice that this has a red underline on it. And it says suspend function invoke should be called only from a coroutine or another suspend function. So that means a coroutine is like a thread. So suspending function is a way to say this function must be called from within a thread, within a new thread. And by being part of the language like that, like the Kotlin language, it forces that I can't call it unless I run it inside like a coroutine context. Um, and that's what this view model scope.launch does. This is an Android way of saying basically create a new thread. It'll be scoped to this view model, so Android will clean up that thread for me, which is super helpful. Um, yes, yes, the suspend keyword is a way to signify it runs on a new thread, and that is enforced by the language, which is really cool. If I did not use the suspend keyword, I opened myself up to the possibility that I don't make a new thread, and then I could end up with a really laggy app or something like that. Um, but it goes back to why this is so related to the error message on the screen. So this is an error from my room file, and it says to use coroutine features, you must add the KTX artifact from room as a dependency. Um, and that KTX stands for like Kotlin extensions. Um, and because suspending functions are a Kotlin thing, like coroutines are a Kotlin language feature. Room was built in Java because that's what we used to use for Android. So by default, Room doesn't support Kotlin language features, like out of the box. So we need to add this Room KTX dependency so that we can use the Kotlin language features. So we'll go to build.gradle for our app, and then we will add that implementation here. Uh, and then root project.ext.versions.room. So now we should be able to run our app for now. Um, and what I think we will see, just as a warning, so um, because our database will be empty, it's never been created, we haven't created any tasks, this screen might look weird. It might look empty. And that's fine. We will work on an empty state at some point. But what we'll hope is that we'll see an empty screen. We should still be able to add a task, and we should see that one task. And then if I close the app and reopen it, I should see that task again. At least that's what I'm hoping we will be able to see in a couple moments here. But that was a great question, not a silly question. Um, I try to make sure that we are as open and inclusive as possible to beginners. Um, oh no, again, don't apologize. This is part of the process. It's something that all of us went through, and I might jump through Kotlin things because the process you're going through now, I happened to go through a long time ago. But it's something that we all have to go through, and so if I can help you with that, I'm happy to. It's just having used Kotlin for so long, I may forget what is different. So I really appreciate you asking the question. I hope you continue to ask questions. I will continue to try to help you on this journey of switching to Kotlin. I hope you love it as much as all of us do, but definitely no need to apologize. This is part of the process. So, um, cool. So we're already partway through what I expected. This is an empty screen. So let's go ahead and add a new task here. Um, derp. Uh, and we'll submit. Oh, nice, we see it. I don't know why the keyboard doesn't close. This feels like a compose bug to me. And I saw someone complaining about it on Twitter. Like, compose is supposed to be stable, but the fact that you can navigate and it doesn't auto-close the keyboard feels awkward. But that's a story for another day. So this looks like it was persisted. So let's force close the app, open it up again, and it's still there. So I would say that our room database is working. Um, cool. So yeah, um, I like it. So let's commit this. Storing and retrieving tasks from room. And if there's anything room specific that we want to look at, we can keep going. I'm trying to decide. There's actually a couple ideas I had. So I don't know if I want to keep digging into the room stuff. Um, oh yeah, we can use the database inspector. I should show that off. So is it an app inspection now? It used to be its own tab. So if we open up app inspection at the bottom here, um, and we select the process, why don't you see it? Um, oh wait, there we go. It took a second to find it. But you can see, so it found our running process, uh, TOA, and then we can see here, this is our database. There's this master table, which has like, I actually don't know what information is stored in here. We can see the task table, and we can see all of the tasks that I have created. Um, and there's even live updates. So I'll show you, I'll do this on my phone. You can't see it, but I can put in a new task and you can see it inserted in real time. So this is a really cool way to run through your app and monitor what's happening inside your database. Um, is it bad to open and close the DB in different fragments activities, or should it only be open once, maybe with singleton pattern? So I think that I would say it varies based on how often you're using the database. If it's used in most of your activities, then I would say just open it once. And that's what I typically do because there's a good chance different portions of the app are going to interact with the database. So I tend to use a singleton pattern there. Um, but I suppose that if you want to be memory efficient, you might only open and close it as you need it. But I think for most cases, I would just use a singleton. That would be my general advice. Um, but there's an asterisk. Like if you find yourself, for any reason, you find you need to be more memory efficient, that's a good place to look. But I think it's fine to just use a singleton, especially if multiple portions of your app are going to use the database. Um, but yeah, we can do a lot from this inspector so we can see information about what's in there. I believe, can you delete? I guess you can't. Um, I know you can. Isn't there a way? Hold on, where is it at? Aha. So there is like a query tab where I can execute specific queries. So I could say like select star from Tris, thank you for the follow. Task where description. Also notice that I get autocomplete. This is very cool that this supports autocomplete. I do like select star from task where description equals dirt. And run this. And I can see, oh, I don't have anything there because it's capitalized. Um, but similarly, I could like delete from task where description equals derp. And then so if I run this, pulling my phone, I deleted the row um, directly. With live view, it is read only. Um, we can also drop all the things. So if I run that, now the app is empty. Yeah, so I think Trax is right. If I'm viewing the table here, results are read only. So what is, hold on. Refresh. I still can't. I don't know what I can do. Um, yeah, you can open up a query tab and then you can select the database and you can run whatever query you want from here. So that's super helpful. Uh, thanks for reminding me to show that off. Um, I was thinking one way we could, well, let's go a little further with Room because, and the app entirely, because there's a couple other things that I want to. Room does use SQLite, yes, because SQLite is shipped by default on all devices running Android. So let's do not necessarily room specific stuff right now, but a little bit of code cleanup. And that I don't want to generate the ID here. I want each task domain entity to have an ID, which right now it doesn't. So let's go to task and let's get an ID, which will be a string. And um, this probably will fail to compile in a bunch of places. Let's figure out where. Ah, well, one will be here where we map that back and forth. Let's find other places where this breaks now, and then just get that compiling again. And then also, it would be cool to look at the scheduled date and talk about how we can store dates in Room. Because I think the answer to that is basically you just like convert it to a long, but I think you need to write like a converter class yourself. I don't remember the answer to that. Once I sort out this ID thing, we can look at it together. Um, yeah. Or why is this? I'm surprised this is taking so long to build. Um, because most things should have been cached, and it's not even a clean build. But it is what it is. We can look up that question. Perfect. Store dates and room Android. Ah, yeah. So room has like a type converter class that you can build, where you basically have like two functions on here. They're annotated with type converter. One goes from the general idea is one goes from your data type to a primitive data type, and one to go the other way around. So, um, interesting. I like that they have this here. So we would basically need to make a converter just like that, and then um, let me pull up the room docs and see if it explains where we use that. Ooh, interesting. I did not know about this part. Room 2.3 and higher includes a default type converter for persisting enums. So you can store enums in Room out of the box now. Since you have the entity and domain models, another approach would be to have the entity hold a long and just map it when you map it. Have the entity hold a long and just map it when you map it. That's fair. Um, but then like it's kind of nice to work with like the local date object if I ever want to do like sorting or filtering or whatever. Um, oh, that's my plan. Oh, you're right. Oh, you're so right. Oh my God, I'm overcomplicating this. That's so much faster. Okay, we'll get to that. Um, okay, but here where we create a task, this is where we can do UUID, that random UUID, that toString. Oh, was that my only compilation error? Oh no, it's not. Um, our demo task list repository. We'll just for our demo, we'll just do task index. Actually, I think we can get rid of this file now. Um, We are using Room now, so there's no need for this demo repository anymore, right? Yeah, let's get rid of it. Um, for task list, act preview. So here we can just do dandy, or we'll just do index here. Same thing in this preview. And this is another compose preview. I'd like to see, there's probably solutions out there. Um, but I'd love to see an idea on how I could put like a um have like a preview module, and I could have like one entity somewhere that is like my preview task, and then anywhere else that I have a preview, I could reference that. So if I change my data class, I don't need to update all of my previews inside the application. Someone must have come up with a mildly elegant solution to this, but I have not yet figured it out. If you know any projects that do that, let me know. Um, But to Raphael's point, so Room does have this type converter where I could, if my entity class had a date at the Room database level, it would know how to convert a date to a long. But to Raphael's point, my entity class, this persistable task, doesn't need a date. It can use a long here. And then I can be the one who maps from long to local date. Um, and I guess it's effectively the same code. It's just a question about like where it lives. Um, so let me show you what it would look like. Oh my god. Well, let's add this one. Let's add task ID. Um, yeah, now I'm really, you know what that's got me thinking about? It's like, is this sort of anti-pattern? Does that mean your entity model should not have any non-primitive data classes? Um, feels like that's probably better. Um, but maybe not. Okay, so let's do that. So let's do it the non-type converter way. So here we can have the scheduled date, and this will be a log. Um, and then on a regular task, we would have a scheduled date. But here we'll use a local date. So um, what will happen is inside our room task list repository, now we need to worry about that when we this is a bit out of scope, but if you wanted to store time zone information, wouldn't you need more than a log, i.e. a string formatted in standard datetime format? Um, yes. I think that makes sense. Um, have a good night, Benny. Great, we'll see you on Friday. Um, ooh, WebShark with the really good question here. So we could store this as a string. In fact, like that might be nicer. Um, okay, let's store it as a string. And let's store it as a string. And so what we can do is we could create a little helper right here. Um, huh, right, zone date time is what I would use. Like I wonder if that's just overcomplicating this small sample app that's not intended to really share, where I care more about dates. Um, oh, but I already have desugaring in here, so we could totally do that. Um, let's see though. What can we? Let's go with local date for the moment. And then if we really wanted to, that could be a sort of separate refactor, but we can do the general idea of what you suggested with the local date. Um, so here we can do like persisted date format, and this could be year, month, day. I think MM, right? Hey CP, how are you doing? Um, and then we would have like our persisted date formatter, which will be datetime formatter, dot of pattern, persistent date format. So we've got this datetime formatter. See? Sorry, the dog's barking again, and that's very unlike him. So let me just make sure everything's okay. Sorry, one second. Um, am I sure I am American? Uh, yeah. Oh, because the date formatter. Yeah. Um, you know what's something that this is something that will make complete sense when you hear it. And some of you are going to think it's obvious, but some of you might have your mind blown by this because I didn't know this for the longest time. Do you know what's really cool about this date format as a string? It's that the dates can be sorted by their string value and be accurate in chronological order. And that makes sense. Like, then you read it and you're like, okay, well, this is big, biggest to smallest. So it makes sense. Like, you order it that way. But it's something that just like, until that was said to me, I just thought it was like, just someone decided this was our standard. But that's probably part of why. So I don't know. Chat is like, okay, at least one person. Wed Shark was also like, I was like, someone has to have their mind blown with me on this, who hasn't heard this before. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. And I think that as you add like like HH and then the time zone, it's probably stays true. But um, yeah. So that's how, like, if I store this in my SQLite database and then I tell Room to sort by date, it will work without having to do any time conversion. It will be able to sort by date, just like it is. Oh, interesting. See, that's the American approach. Um, not sure what y'all are doing, but okay. But now that we have that, so when I'm going from persistable task to task, I can say, scheduled date will be local date dot of. Wait, hold on. I think I want to do persistent date formatter dot form. No, parse parse, and then I give it this dot scheduled date dot to local date. Oh my god, how do I? This gives me a temporal accessor. Um, oh god, how do I parse local date from string? Wait, there's a local date dot parse. I missed it. Okay, yeah, and then I can give it the sequence and the formatter. So I can give it this dot scheduled date, and then I can give it persistent date formatter. Also, this should not have a capital P. I'm not sure where that came from. Okay, so that's how we go from local date to or string to local date, and then the other way we go the opposite. We go um, scheduled date will be persistent date formatter dot format, and then I give it this dot scheduled date. Cool. So that's that. Let's build this. We're gonna have to update all of our previews again. Um, but that'll be cool. And then we can run this and we can look at the database inspector again to see what works. So at test metal. So here, our scheduled date will be view state dot value dot task input dot scheduled date. And then here, this is a compose preview. So here, for scheduled date, we'll just do local date dot now. And that's what we'll put in all of our compose previews. So this might lead to an interesting thing if I run this actually, which is an interesting question about development with Room. Um, which is, so I've changed my database schema. So I'm worried that when I run this, my app is going to crash, which it did. Um, and it's going to crash because the database schema doesn't match. So there's a couple solutions to this around like I mean the easiest one is I could delete the app, right? Um, or I can simply fix this by increasing the version number, which is also valid. But I think what I want to do is when you create the database, um, I think you can set like uh what is it? Fallback to destructive migration. And basically what this will do is if it can't find a migration, oh, do they have auto migrations? They do. Okay, so we can try them out. The reason I didn't is because, oh, you're right, I did not save the schema. The reason I didn't worry about migrations is because, like, this app isn't in production, so I don't really care about migrating it. I'm going to be modifying it to what is the, like, stable version. So I was thinking that for development, we could just add, like, fallback to destructive migration. Um, and what this will do is this will basically, anytime that it can't match it, um, it will just recreate the database, which for development's sake is fine with me. But I do not recommend doing this in production. What? You still crashed? Does that not work? Room cannot verify the integrity. Uh, Interesting. So do I have to upgrade it? Um, I can upgrade the version. This will probably fail. I mean, I can still, well, okay, actually, that will pass, right? Because it's not falling back. Okay, and then I'll just do a clean install when I actually want to do this. But oh, you're right. I can also clear out. Who shared? Oh, there is. I did add this ADB clear app data, or this was like a someone had suggested that a while ago. There's this like ADB plugin for Android Studio. Yeah, yeah, the ADB idea plugin, and then when you change something in your entity, it shows an error of versions or something like that. Why? So when your entity maps to like a database table, right? So you have a column for each property. If I change my entity, that is like adding a new column. And in a database layer, that's not allowed. You can't just do that without telling your database how to support that migration. Like if I'm adding a new column, I need to tell the database, okay, add this new column, but maybe I need to provide a default value for all of the existing records. And Room has ways to support that. I wasn't talking about it in depth because I don't care that I'm changing it. I just want to delete the database and make a new one. But this matters if, like, let's say my app is out there in production and all of my users have right. So the version would be 2. That would be the new thing that we would do. Um, we'll look at that warning in a second. But if I have a production app that's already out there and a lot of people are using it, if I want to change the database, I need to do so in a way that those users don't lose their data. Like imagine this, it's a task management app. Imagine if you go to the Play Store and you get an update and then all of a sudden all of your tasks are gone. That would be really bad. So in a production world, I should care about migrations. But in this development process where no one else is using it and I'm just figuring out what version 1 should be, I just want to delete the database and start over. So I'm not really teaching the greatest practices. I think it would be a cool like separate stream or video to talk about migrations, which I actually have one. Um, Let me find it. Let me just um, because if anyone wants to watch it, it doesn't talk about auto migrations, which didn't exist at the time. Uh, but you know what? It's still a cool video to watch, and it's only like 20 some minutes. Um, Let me find it here. Oh God! And then you can see um, there's actually a cool story. I am on a MacBook, yes. So brief little cool story about this video um, that you can't tell, but this was from May of last year. So this was, or 2 years ago, where a bunch of us got together after quarantine started and we wanted to do something for the Android community. So we all recorded a bunch of videos. We published them under this async Android account. And so this is actually my fiance's old studio apartment where I basically stood in front of a door in the studio. We put uh like blankets up above the door to try to drown out the sound. And I didn't even have a fancy webcam yet. I did have a microphone, I think, at this point. It was just like very, you could see like very scuffed editing. Like I learned the basics on how to put, this was like the first or second video I ever made. Um, yeah, and there was a blog post to go with it. Um, so this is cool. For like first or second like YouTube specific video I had ever made. Um, Okay, well, but what are we trying here? So now we want to make sure I can still do task stuff. Um, Beep. So that worked. If we look at our database inspector again, um, this might take a second to connect. There we go. But cool, we can see a schedule date and we can see it formatted um, as like today's date. Uh, so that's cool. All right, we can mark this as done. So storing scheduled date with task. Um, Trax saw something. Oh, this one. So the choreographer tends to complain on composed builds. Okay. Um, Probably. I'm not aware of anything that I lost where that went. Let's run this again. Um, but the question is, am I doing some init on the main thread if the choreographer is dropping frames? Anything like that is entirely possible. Um, Skipped 50 frames, the application may be doing too much work on its main thread. Um, we could pull up we could go on a side adventure. Um, I might need to, if I debug, does the profiler keep the new session? Because I want to see, it looks like it will, okay. Um, None of these, is my phone 120 hertz? And does the choreographer take that into account? You know, my phone is 120 hertz, so something like that is possible. Um, we see a lot of energy in the beginning here, in CPU usage, but I'm not aware of anything that would be happening on the main thread. Um, and even then, we're not even hitting much above the light energy. Commit in short or long steps. Do you mean like how often I commit like my own code? That's another personal preference. I try to do short steps, but that's just me. I like to do like a thing and then get rid of all the coloring in Android Studio and stuff. Um, at the end of the day, I tend to squash and merge my pull requests, so it only ends up being one commit. I'm not really thinking about Git history. It's more of my own personal organization, but that is very like personal decision. I wouldn't say that that is like right or wrong. Um, how to use Android Profiler? I don't know. Um, I really don't use this. Um, times I've seen it helpful in the past is like if I see a very clear spike somewhere, that tells me what to look into. Um, but in general, like this app isn't doing a lot that I imagine the profile is not really giving us information. But I've used apps in the past where I can see this memory block just continues to grow and grow and grow. And that's how you know you have a memory leak or poor like cleanup. But it would be cool to do a session on the profiler in the future. Um, okay, so we I think have the basics of room done. So let's um, make that pull request. So adding room integration for number 13. Oh, I learned something interesting today on Twitter. Y'all ready for another GitHub trick that's going to blow your mind? So check this out. So if I use, what is it? Is it like, hold on. Um, let me get the link for this. Hold on. Uh, TOA. Issues. Let me copy this link here. Okay, so I have this link. Um, working on this issue. I don't know if how well you can read that. Let me blow this up just a little bit. So I type in working on this issue and I put a link to the ticket. This is inside a GitHub pull request description. If I look at the preview, I can see, okay, GitHub um, does the shortened link. It knows to like just mark it to number 13. And when I hover, GitHub tells me information. But I learned that if you use lists, like a bullet point, then in the preview, it renders the title. All you have to do is put the GitHub link onside like a list item, and it will render the title instead of the short link. Ah, Prince is on top of everything. He's not surprised by anything I've told him today, except maybe the Android stuff. But you can also make checkboxes into issues now. I didn't know that. That's cool. Um, yeah, I just thought that was neat. Um, you will never find a newer feature of GitHub, Twitter, Slack than me. That's fair. That's fair. Um, all right, so it's 8:45. Okay. Um, we can keep going. Oh, leave it. It's too late. Oh no, my builds are failing. We'll find out. Bullet poisoning from now on. Yeah, I wouldn't abuse it. Especially because I like these short links. And I like the like circular references they give. So like if I go to this pull request, I can see Adam mentioned this issue in this pull request. They're like tied together. Oh, you can press the dot key and it will open up. Uh yeah. There's also like uh Command K, which is the shortcut for the search keyword in Slack, also works in GitHub. And you can search issues and things like that. Someone showed me, wait, what is so um there was a thing. So hold on. So if I'm editing something in here, like I'm filling something out. So if I type the number, I can search for that, but I think oh yeah. I thought that it was always when you type the pound sign that you could only do like the number, but you can also type like the title and it will search for that as well. and then replace it with a number. So that's cool. Command K is great. Oh my god, catching up. Uh, oh, I don't know much about Fleet. Is that like a new? Is that like a new text code editor that's supposed to be super lightweight? Um, a session down GitHub secret. Yeah, GitHub does so much. Um, all right, we can look it up while that build is running. Is this a video? Should I search it on YouTube for the um, tracks found it? Okay, let's go to YouTube to find the trailer. Um, Meet Fleet. This is from JetBrains TV. Is this the one, the second one? CP? All right, let's watch it. It's 6 minutes, but we can watch it together.
Hi,
Y'all can
Marco
hear my
here.
computer audio?
Don't you
Yeah,
just
can.
love trying out new things, like a brand new ID, for example? Let me show you something. Imagine you had a text editor. It's pretty snappy and it runs on every operating system. And then you can do what you can do with a text editor, like browse your folders and have a look at the files inside. So for example, here's a SQL file with basic syntax highlighting enabled, the same for a JSON file. And then when you browse a couple more folders, you'll see that it's actually a Java project. It has a couple of Java classes inside, again with basic syntax highlighting enabled, but no advanced features like refactorings, for example. Now, what if you could turn this text editor into a full-blown IDE by just clicking a single button? Let's do that. As you can see, Smart Mode is now starting. What does that mean? It means that you can imagine in the background, there's an IntelliJ IDEA instance running, which now opens up your project. It downloads the dependencies, it creates the indices and whatnot, and then later on is going to feed this text editor with the data like advanced refactorings, auto-completions, navigations, and whatnot. As you can see already, a couple things changed here in this editor window. Now it's not just basic syntax highlighting anymore, but you can already have a look at the usages, for example. Here's a logger variable with 2 usages, and when I click it, I can see in this file, there's 2 times where the logger instance variable is being used. It's not too exciting, might be more exciting if you have a big project with usages across several files, but it gives you an idea of what this can do. Then when you scroll down, what you also can do is, for example, have a look at your favorite refactorings, like renamings. Instead of calling it username, you might, for whatever reason, just call it user. You can see there's a warning down here. Simply hit Alt-Enter and replace it with the standard char-sets US ASCII. You can obviously also just, select the body here, extract a variable, like so. And you can also access your favorite auto-completions, like if you wanted to, for whatever reason, trim the body here. Now, working on such a project all by myself is a bit lonely, so let's do something. Let me share my workspace, take the invitation link, and invite a good friend of mine, Hadi, to join me in this editor. All right, as you can see, I just put my headphones on. Hadi is trying to join my editor, and I'm just going to give him full access. Hello, Hadi.
Hey, Marco, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. Hadi, I could need your help with something. I have a test.
What's that?
Which is not that great. Could you just help me make it a bit cleaner, actually?
Yeah. When will you learn, Marco? When will you learn? I keep telling you, you start with the tests and then you go with the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me actually just add some comments while you're editing that test.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that. I mean, what is this? How are people meant to understand what this means? There's this thing called refactoring. So let's bring this out into a variable. And oh, nice. I like that. TILF. I like that name.
TILF.
There you go. How does that look for you? Is that better?
It looks much better, actually. And that's
nice.
That's a great pair programming session. Hadi, actually, thank you for your work so far. I'll just get back to you in a second, okay?
Okay.
All right, now hold on a second.
Well, then you
A
can
bit
just kick
earlier, I
him.
told you that essentially we're running an embedded version of IntelliJ IDEA on my machine. But instead of running it on my machine locally, couldn't we just run that backend on some very strong server in the cloud? And then it doesn't matter if I'm accessing that backend from my desktop PC, from my laptop, or from
Ooh,
even my
so is
mobile
this like
phone, right? Tell you what, let's give that a
projector, but
try
on
as well.
steroids?
So I'm just going to close down this instance here. I'm going to JetBrains space where I have a repository hosted. And conveniently enough, you can see I have an environment here which has 4 CPUs, 7 gigabytes of RAM, 40 gigabytes of disk space. And I have a convenient button called Open an IDE. As you can see, my IDE is being launched. It's going to take a second. And what that means is that somewhere in the cloud now, a Docker container is running with your IDE backend, with your source code being downloaded to it, already being indexed, all the dependencies being available. And you can now browse the project. And I'm not browsing this project on my local PC. Actually, I'm browsing that project straight on the server. And every refactoring I'm doing, every autocompletion and whatnot, like if I had a string hello here and trim, that functionality is also being executed on the server for me. Now, it doesn't matter if I just close on this window here, go to my laptop, open it up again, I can, continue right where I left off. And again, as before, it's a bit more exciting to have multiple people working on the same project. So let's just quickly invite Hardy back. Welcome back, Hardy. Sorry for kicking you out earlier.
It's okay. I know that I'm just your auxiliary test unit.
Could
you only want me for tests.
That's true. Could you help me with one more test, please?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty tricky one. Can you just quickly fix it for me?
Yeah. Okay. So here's how you would fix that. I think that is correct. No, wait a minute.
That's
no.
actually not. Yeah.
There you go. That's how you fix it.
Okay, that's great. Let me just quickly run this and see if it works.
Okay.
And then we can live. That was perfect. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you.
That's what I'm here for.
Cool. Thanks again. All right. Stop imagining things. Get fleet and try out everything yourself that you just saw me do in this video. It's an early version. A lot of the things are not working as you might expect, but whatever is working is pretty darn exciting. It's fleet.
That was cool. I'm glad we looked at that. I would love to try that out. It's cool that there is like a preview version. Maybe I will play around with that. So what I would be curious on, as they kind of hinted at this in the beginning, about like the smart mode or whatever. Um, so is it built with Compose UI? Um, but does that mean it's intended to work with sort of any project domain? Like if I open an Android project and I open a Python project or a JavaScript project, does Fleet just adapt accordingly? Based on whatever IntelliJ instance, because IntelliJ has a whole suite, PyCharm, WebStorm, etc. So does that mean this is supposed to be like an all-in-one thing? Um, or is it going to be focused on Java, Kotlin-based projects because that's their thing? That's really cool then. That is really cool. Let's check out our pull request. It failed. Oh wait, well, probably because I didn't update the stream history, but also the build failed. Okay, so let's do this real quick. I'm behind on a couple things here, but look, I'm also thinking about this stream history file has gotten long. Room library for persisting storage. This stream history file has gotten kind of long, and I've been thinking of maybe putting like keywords at the top. So like if people want to find streams on specific topics, here it is. Instead of this ever-growing list. Because I'm also thinking about updating the YouTube videos. Right now I put like the episode title or number in the title, and I'm thinking of dropping that. Because even though this is a cohesive project, each stream is intended to cover like a specific topic that they don't really need to be consumed in its entirety. So I was thinking about dropping the number from the stream titles and recording like a short 10, 15 seconds that I put the front of every video that just like explains what it is. As people who are unfamiliar with the series like find my videos, they would know where to find more. So to be determined, but I would like to clean this idea up. Um, let's run a test because it's probably one of my tests that are failing. Um, and we'll figure out why. Probably some compilation error because I changed my task model. Um, not a big deal though. We'll just figure out where all those errors happened. Okay, there's only two, and they're both right here. So task ID will be test, scheduled date, local date done now. Now let's run tests again. So what do you think, chat? We're at like the 2 hour mark. Are there any specific room database ideas that y'all want to look into? Do we want to try to explore SQLite, see how far we can get with that? Um, maybe do like a brief comparison of the two database libraries based on that. Um, what are we thinking? Are we collectively tired? I'm not tired. I'm happy to keep going a little bit longer. Uh, just curious what chat is interested in. How does my database look so small and yours has a huge init part? What do you mean? Like you mean here, where I basically just have like 2 lines? Oh, also I think we decided I can get rid of this because I just did the clear data. Oh my god. Auto migrations, SQLite. Okay. All right, let's do both. Let's do both. And let's what's the word? Because auto migrations we could probably just spend a few minutes on. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna commit this. This is working now. Oh, one sec. Let me double check this. That's back to version 1. Let's commit this. And we won't add auto migrations right now. But we'll make a new branch and we'll just try them out. Um, once I push this, we'll try them out. We'll spend just a couple minutes on that and then we'll look at SQLite, which hopefully doesn't take too long. Okay, we're gonna squash and merge this because I just ran it locally. Oh, okay, and then let's do TOA 13 auto migrations. So what we'll do is, well, let's look at the docs first because there might be some uh, stuff that we have to do. Recap. Welcome, Dev. So what you've missed so far tonight is we added the room library for persisting data on Android. So we're working on this task management app that you see here, and we worked on storing information that we add inside a room database on the device. So this is persisted across app sessions. If I force close that and reopen it, we still see the same list. Um, and that's actually what you just missed. Without going into the details about the room library, that's what we did tonight. So what we're about to look into, you actually joined at an interesting time. We're going to look at like database migrations. So I don't know if you're familiar with databases, but what a migration means for anyone joining in is like if I have a database on the device, the tables are sort of fixed, and I want to change them without compromising the data of existing users. I need a way to migrate users from version 1 to version 2. So the idea would be we would move to a new version, and I would still see these two tasks without compromising it. So we used to have to write that ourselves, but it sounds like starting at room 2.4 alpha 01 and higher, they have auto migrations. Now, this sounds like a later version, but we're using 2.4.0, which should be stable enough for us to use them. So let's see how we do this. So to declare an automated migration between two database versions, add an @auto migration annotation to the auto migrations property in database. Okay, so beforehand, we have version equals 1 and our entities. That's what our database looks like now. And they're saying we add this auto migrations tag, which says like from this version to this version, support auto migration. Okay, we can do that. Let's start there. Let's go to our database class and let's just drop that in there. From 1 to 2. Now, the other thing we need to worry about here actually is let's go to our persistable task, and we actually need to change something for this migration to be worth it. Who asked for migrations? Dan. So I'm gonna, I don't know. I was trying to think of a funny name here. Um, auto migrated column. We won't be clever. This will be a string. Okay, and but there's one thing here. That's I was gonna put like your name in there or something, but I left it out. Uh, this says room automated migrations rely on the generated database schema for both the old and the new versions of the database. If export schema is set to false, or you have not yet compiled the database with the new version number, then auto migrations fail. So we need to set export schema. Wait, hold on. Is there more information here? Oh god, I went too far. So we need to actually export the schema. So let's go a step back because what export schema does is, where is this at? Is this on the, um, hold on. I'm going to go a step back first. I'm going to step back on some of this. Before we add the column, we need to export the current schema as it exists. So, but it sounds like we can do just export schema as true here. Yeah, so usually I've seen people put it in their build.gradle file so that we know where to find it. And that means you have the history in your version control system, but don't ship them with your app. So let's find this out. Export schema root. Um, let's see if I can find an example of someone doing this. Okay, I'm just going to copy this because I've seen this before. We put annotation processor options. We have room.schema location. We put that in project directory /schemas. And then let me show you where that happens. So that goes inside our default config. Let's just copy this real quick. Wait, that goes inside default config. Okay, so here. This is different with KSP. That's entirely possible. Export schemas. Oh, they don't clarify here. Let's run this and let's find out. Let's do sync. And let's find out if it breaks or not. So what we can expect to happen is somewhere in here, we will see a, actually it might be inside the add folder. We'll see a schemas directory be created. with a file called like one.json, and that will be our current schema version. Once I know that that export is happening, then I can start moving to auto migrations and test that out. But let's first ensure that our first schema is getting created. Uh, I don't think it showed up anywhere. Okay, Raphael has the answer for us. Add the following arguments to your build decorator. Got it. So instead of okay, so instead of Java compile options, it's the same idea, but we use KSP. I don't know if it goes in the same location. Let's find out. Um, this will probably yell at me. Okay, that didn't yell at me. So let's do a run. Oh, yeah, cool. So now we can see schemas, and then see here, we see this one.json, which is basically a bunch of JSON showing how to create our database. And we do want this to be um, added to Git. This is also helpful for testing uh, prior to auto migrations, but still relevant is the reason you would export your schema like this is so that in a test, I can tell Room, create at this version, create at this version, and I can test my own migration. And technically, this could help to test an auto migration, but ideally, if it's like a capability of the library, we don't need to be testing auto migrations. But if you were doing your any of your own manipulation on a migration from one version to another, that's the reason you would export your schema. Okay, so let's commit this real quick, and we'll say exporting schema for version 1. And does anyone know when does that happen when you run like a Gradle build? Or is it when you run the app? Uh, I'm curious. We can find out because now we can take what we know about auto migrations um, and start putting that stuff in. So let's copy this again. So let's go here. We're going to move to version 2. We're going to add this auto migration from 1 to 2. And then inside our persistable task, we're going to add auto migration column, and we'll make that a string. So I'm actually just curious, if I run a Gradle build, will that generate the new schema? Or do I need to run the app? That's just trial and error here to find out. Oh, well, this will probably fit. Oh, okay, we got actually some interesting stuff here. So, related to the migration. So, I don't know if this is hard to read. Let me highlight it. And this was going to be a question I figured we'd run into. So, we added a new non-null column with no default value specified. So what this means is like when our database changes and we move to like this new version, it needs to add this column, but it doesn't know what to do for previous rows. So we need to give it like a default value, or we can make it nullable, in which case I think it would just give everything null. Um, but let's say we want to actually put something in there. So here we would add the column info annotation, and the default value would be Dan, because this was his idea. Um, and but it is nice to note that our JSON did get built. Um, so that's cool. So we have now our version 1 schema and our version 2 schema. Um, but I wanted to look at this comment here before I run this. So if room detects ambiguous schema changes and is unable to generate a migration plan, it throws a compile time error and asks you to implement auto migration spec. Okay, so this involves deleting and renaming a table, deleting and renaming a column. Um, and you can give it an auto migration spec. So this is cool. So they can make one that says, okay, rename this table to this table. In our case, we're adding a column, so it sounds like that's something Room can automatically support. But this is cool to see, like, if we needed to do something specific, um, we could do that. So let's run this then. I think that by giving this a default value and by actually this won't compile yet because of my because of this line right here. We need to give it a when we go from task to a persistable task. Uh, so for here, we'll just put an empty string here. So for new, this is basically when I create a new entity, it'll be empty. But I want to see when I run this and I use the database inspector for any existing rows, I should see that default value that we added. And we'll try it out when this runs. Oh, and we do see it. There is the auto migration column. And then, yeah, if I were to test this again with a new row, in the new row, it's empty. So yeah, that's auto migrations. So I guess the key things to watch out for, make sure you're exporting your schema, which is understandable. Um, Room uses that to generate the migrations. But then also to keep in mind there are some types of migrations that can still trip up Room, but for adding a column, I think that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and commit this and then supporting auto migration. And I'll share that in like the notes, maybe, but I don't think I'm going to merge this code, obviously, because it was just for testing sake. Yeah, thank God it's a compile time error, exactly. Um, yeah, you can test migration. So just to show you here, like this is where they talk about exporting schemas, but at a high level, um, at a high level, your source sets need to include your schemas that you've added. But then here you can see it. So um, right here. So in your test code, you create this migration test helper, which has your database in it. You create your database with version 1, and then you call apply, where you would say insert some data. And then what you'll do is you'll call helper.run migrations and validate, and then you give it the version you're going to. You give it the migration you're testing. Um, and then it will basically verify all of your migrations. I think actually this doesn't say how to test the auto migrations. Because how do I do this if I don't want to supply my own migration? Or maybe Room generates a migration for us. Maybe there's like some generated class somewhere. But that's the general idea. Create a database with a version, add some data, and then run the migration, and then you can validate the output. So this can be tested, which is cool. Um, and then yeah, if you have like multiple versions, you could get like you could go to some fancy like version matrix, like version 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 2 to 4 and whatever, but um, that's all up to you and what you think is like practical.